you all again for joining us today. I want to thank my colleague Senator Booker, who's in Los Angeles today, for joining me on this visit to the impacted areas and communities around the Eaton fire from earlier this year. There's a lot of work that remains to be done, but I got to tell you, it is good news. The amount of work that has been completed to date, the pace of work that is being completed to date. I want to recognize the tremendous leadership and energy from Bob Fenton, Regional Administrator at FEMA. Stand closer, Bob. Of course, we have Major Kelly from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, representatives from the SBA, Cal OES, our state partners, of course, partners in local, county, and city governments as well. Specific shout out to Cal OES and FEMA, because we've been through a lot of disasters over the last decade or so throughout California. So that's the bad news. The good news is we've gotten really good at working together, and that coordination and collaboration is continuing to shine here. We've had a chance to visit some of the impacted residential areas, and this will serve as a reminder for folks who have been impacted by the fire. March 31st is the new deadline to begin to apply for assistance. We try to make it easy. Go to disasterassistance.gov. disasterassistance.gov. Whether it's through the FEMA portal or the county portal, we are asking residents to submit their right of entry form, your ROE, the right of entry form, to allow folks, whether it's FEMA, whether it's the Army Corps of Engineers, whether it's EPA or anybody else, to access your property to conduct the debris removal, including potentially hazardous materials. That's required. There is not a fee for this, right, Bob?
That's right, sir.
There's not a fee for the debris removal, but we do need a property owner's permission to access the parcel to conduct this. All necessary work before we begin to rebuild. Whether you're a family seeking to rebuild your home, a business owner wanting to rebuild and reopen your business, we need to do the cleanup work first. We're ahead of schedule given the scale of the events, but still a lot more work to do. And lastly, just before I turn it over to my colleague, Senator Booker, why this is important for my colleagues and me when I go back to Washington next week. As many of you know, we just passed the spending package last week that will fund the government through the end of the fiscal year. One of the reasons I was a no vote on that is because it did not include a supplemental disaster funding, not for Los Angeles, not for the Carolinas, not for other regions of the country that have been impacted by disasters. And so we still have that pending work in Washington, whether it's a standalone supplemental appropriation or attached to some other must-pass piece of legislation. The accounts at FEMA, the Army Corps, and elsewhere need replenishing in the next couple of months. So the assistance keeps coming, the resources keep coming, and the rebuilding continues. So with that, thank you all again for joining us. I'll turn it over now to my colleague, the great senator from the state of New Jersey, someone with many ties here to California and Southern California, Cory Booker.
Thank you very much. I'm really honored to be here and humbled really to be before such extraordinary federal, state, county, and local leaders. None greater than my friend Alex Padilla, who from the very start of this has not only stood here in California, but has made sure he had the connections in the federal government and in the Senate to make sure we get things done. I'm here because I want to learn, and I'm also here because I just want to send a very clear message to this community that you do not stand alone. You are extraordinarily strong in what you're doing, but you have support, because this is a regional disaster, but it's also a national disaster. And in the United States, we must take care of our own. I want to add to that just a tremendous celebration of some of the leaders that are here. I've met extraordinary local leaders. The Army Corps General, thank you for your extraordinary work and your team. Colonel, I cannot tell you, as when our state was on its knees with Hurricane Sandy, we saw FEMA step up. They're getting better and better and better, and that continuity of leadership is seen very much here. And I want to say finally that Alex and his partner, Senator Schiff, have made it clear that all the resources we need have not been allocated yet, and there's budgetary work to do. This is not a partisan issue. It's not a left-right issue. It's about how we move America and Americans forward. There are other places in America that are facing severe challenges because of natural disasters. We as a country cannot divide against each other. It's really one time to pull together and stand together, and that's why I'm grateful to have Alex Padilla as one of the leaders in that sentiment. This is not just a California challenge, as he said, from coast to coast, from North Carolina to California, north to south in our nation. We more and more have to stand together as these kind of disasters become more frequent. Thank you.
The last thing I'll mention before we open up to questions is just to underscore the point that this truly was a national disaster that requires a national response. It wasn't just reflected in the number of firefighters and other first responders that were here in January. We had personnel from all over the country. Same in our response. We were looking at representatives from FEMA, the Army Corps of Engineers, SBA, EPA, others, all with the experience and expertise from 9/11 to Hurricane Katrina, to Hurricane Sandy, and everywhere in between. So it's really taken a the national leadership experience and expertise just to respond to these unprecedented and historic fire incidents from January here in Southern California. So I want to thank them again for their work and their sacrifice, and